Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Courage and Fur for more amazing dog stories. It wasn't the bark, it was the silence that dropped heavy, thick like fog before a storm. A silence that screamed betrayal. For David Riley, a single father just trying to get through another Tuesday morning with his 3-year-old son Noah and a mug of reheated coffee, that silence would change everything. His retired K9 partner Max, a powerful 90 lb Labrador with the loyalty of 10 men, stood perfectly still in the kitchen doorway. Ears stiff, eyes locked on David's son, breath barely moving. David, a seasoned K9 handler, knew Max never froze like that unless something was terribly wrong. Noah giggled at the breakfast table, a smear of oatmeal on his cheek. Across from him, Sarah, their nanny of 8 months, smiled warmly. "Just one more bite, champ," she cooed, stirring the spoon in his bowl. David had seen Sarah do this 100 times. But he also saw Max. Over the past week, the dog had started subtly blocking Sarah's path to Noah. A low, almost imperceptible rumble in his chest whenever she leaned too close. David had dismissed it as an old dog being overly protective. My biggest mistake, he'd later realize. Sarah, sensing Max's vigilance, had even tried to undermine his position. Just days before, she'd accidentally left Noah's favorite toy within Max's reach, later accusing him of chewing it up. David, frustrated, had confined Max to his kennel for a few hours. "I truly believed her innocence then," David would regretfully recall. "So much so, I punished the only one who saw the truth." Max's subtle warnings intensified. He would sometimes refuse to eat the meal Sarah prepared for Noah, merely sniffing it before turning away. "He's just being picky today," Sarah would laugh. But Max would only look at David, eyes pleading, a silent alarm. David also found himself plagued by restless sleep, haunted by vague dreams of Max pulling him away from a shadowy figure. A message he couldn't decipher. The air in their home, once light, now felt heavy, charged with an unseen tension. Suddenly Max erupted, not with a warning bark but a primal controlled lunge. Nails scraping tile, he clamped down on Sarah's forearm. A shriek tore through the kitchen. The spoon clattered. Noah screamed. Max held firm, not mauling, just a rigid, unyielding grip. "Max, out!" David roared, rushing to Noah. Max released, backing away, his eyes fixed not on Sarah, but on the fallen spoon, an unspoken accusation. Paramedics and police swarmed their quiet home. Sarah, pale and trembling, accused Max of a vicious, unprovoked attack. "He went crazy," she cried, even attempting to provoke Max further with sharp words and quick movements behind David's back. "I didn't do anything, I swear." David, in the chaos, noticed a strange pinkish smear on the oatmeal spoon. He instinctively kept the spoon, a tiny detail in a storm of confusion. Despite David's protests, Max, a decorated war hero, was taken for a behavioral hold. Officer Jim Peterson, a hardened animal control veteran known for his strict interpretations of protocol, was unyielding. "Regulations are regulations, Mr. Riley. Decorated K9 or not, a bite is a bite." David felt a profound betrayal, not from his dog, but from a system quick to condemn. This echoed the countless times the innocent are judged solely by what appears on the surface. As Max was led away, David felt a pang of guilt. He had failed his loyal partner. The house was too quiet. The silence was deafening, amplified by Noah's whimpers and the absence of Max's familiar presence. David slept little, clinging to Noah, haunted by the dangerous dog label. He felt a deep, gnawing guilt. "Every minute Max was gone," David would later recount, "I felt like I had betrayed him, like I had doubted his unwavering loyalty." That morning, David returned to the kitchen. The strange metallic scent from the oatmeal still lingered. He carefully scraped a sample into a Ziploc bag. This wasn't for the police, not yet. This was for Lena Hayes, a former Army toxicologist, sharp and discreet. Lena didn't ask many questions when David presented the sample, merely raised an eyebrow at the toddler's breakfast label. "That's not what oatmeal's supposed to smell like," she muttered, already prepping her lab equipment. The phone call came hours later. Lena's voice was grim, devoid of emotion, making the news even more chilling. "Trace amounts of ethylene glycol. Antifreeze." David's stomach plummeted. Repeated ingestion, kidney failure within days. Noah could have died. The realization hit him like a physical blow. Max hadn't attacked, he had intervened. He had been a hero, misunderstood and punished. A desperate urgency consumed David. Noah's pediatrician, Dr. Feldman, confirmed early renal stress. Noah was sick. Time was ticking. This wasn't an accident. Dr. Feldman stated gravely. A child this young doesn't get antifreeze in his system by chance. This knowledge fueled David's resolve. He had to act fast. David rushed home, his mind racing. He remembered the nanny cam. Frantically, he reviewed hours of mundane footage. Most was routine. Then, a chilling discovery. Sarah, on multiple occasions, casually slipping a clear liquid from a small vial into Noah's food and juice. No label, no hesitation. David snapped a screenshot. The proof was undeniable. A wolf in sheep's clothing operating right under his nose. He then visited Max at Hope Springs Animal Sanctuary. The sterile facility felt cold, a stark contrast to Max's warm presence. Max greeted him with a calm nudge, his eyes silently asking, "Did I do good?" David's heart ached with regret. He swore he could feel the weight of Max's loyalty, a burden of trust he had initially failed. He found Max not eating, merely watching the gate, then looking toward the direction of David's home, as if still on guard. This further solidified David's faith. David met with Dr. Maya Evans, a canine behaviorist who specialized in misunderstood heroes. Maya confirmed Max's actions were pure instinct, no aggression. He was guarding a vulnerable individual, your son. He was a sentinel. Max's name was being cleared, but the fight for justice had just begun. Max had given David a second chance to protect his son, and he wouldn't waste it. This painful awakening to hidden dangers and the quiet heroism of an animal was a profound lesson in listening to instincts, even when the world tells you otherwise. Detective Ramirez, a sharp, no-nonsense officer David knew from his patrol days, listened intently to his story, her expression hardening as she reviewed the nanny cam footage. "Attempted poisoning of a child," she stated. "That's federal territory." She immediately launched a full investigation, but Marilyn Thorne, as David now knew her, had vanished. The system, though powerful, could be slow, bound by procedure, and David felt a burning impatience. He had to know who this woman truly was. Then, a chilling new development. A crisp, typed note with no return address appeared in his mailbox. "He's not wrong." Looked inside her purse. She was never supposed to stay this long. Find the truth. A cold shiver ran down David's spine. Someone else knew. Someone was watching. This wasn't just a random act. It felt like a hidden hand guiding him, hinting at a larger, darker truth, suggesting Marilyn had a past that haunted more than just his family. David, urged by the anonymous message, searched Sarah's forgotten purse. Inside, amidst mundane items, he found a prescription bottle. Marilyn Thorne, fluoxetine, from Central State Women's Correctional Facility. His blood ran cold. Deeper still, a brittle yellowed newspaper clipping. Child neglect case ends in sentencing. Mother accused of deliberate underfeeding. The mugshot stared back at him. It was Sarah, but with eyes devoid of warmth, replaced by a hollow emptiness. He immediately called Ramirez. Her team confirmed Marilyn Thorne's identity. She was 35, recently released early from supervised parole. Ramirez explained how Marilyn had expertly manipulated the system, legally changing her name in Arkansas, acquiring a new ID, a false resume, and even forged 2 glowing reference letters. She preyed on unsuspecting families through online platforms, meticulously building her facade, Ramirez grimly stated. She's not the first to game the system. Ramirez's grim findings confirmed David's worst fears. Marilyn's psychological profile from her old case was chilling. Ruilong en vo huang tuang oangiandoe vovaitro lami. One sentence resonated with terrifying clarity. Subject displayed no emotional distress regarding child's removal. Expressed belief that the child was the problem and would be better off with others. David's stomach lurched. She wasn't just criminally negligent. She believed she was justified, even righteous. She saw children not as lives to nurture, but as problems to be fixed or managed. Then his phone rang again. An unknown number. David answered. A distorted, guttural voice hissed, "She likes them clean, doesn't she? Don't let her finish her masterpiece. You're not the first she's played with." The line went dead. David's blood ran cold. This wasn't just about Noah. Marilyn was a serial predator, with a twisted fixation on perfecting innocent children. This was a dark revelation, plunging David into a deeper abyss of fear and rage, knowing that his son had merely been her latest project. A crushing wave of guilt washed over David. He, a trained canine handler, a man who swore to protect, had allowed such evil into his home, into Noah's life. He had been so blind, so trusting of a false front. It took a loyal, silenced dog to see the truth he had missed. This betrayal, not just of David's trust, but of the very notion of safety in one's home, felt like a brutal punch to the gut. It forced David to confront his own naivete and the terrifying reality that sometimes the most insidious threats hide in plain sight. Noah's fever spiked. Dr. Feldman's voice on the phone was grave. "We need him in immediately if it worsens. His renal stress is progressing." David felt a desperate urgency. Time was running out. Every minute was a battle. Max, now back home, remained Noah's unwavering shadow, sleeping outside his bedroom door, refusing to eat until Noah smiled. The dog was more than a pet. He was a silent sentinel, a living alarm, tuned to a frequency David could only now begin to understand. Detective Ramirez called with a critical lead. Marilyn Thorne had been spotted near a secluded abandoned motel about 40 miles east, buying baby supplies and a prepaid burner phone. "She's preparing for something," Ramirez warned. "Do not approach her, David. She's unstable." But David knew he couldn't sit by. He had a deep visceral need to face her, to end this nightmare himself. David conferred with Marcus Hughes, his forensic IT friend. Marcus had traced Marilyn's recent digital footprint to a cluster of Wi-Fi pings around an old derelict farmhouse not far from David's own property. "She didn't run far, David," Marcus stated, his voice grim. "She was watching you, always." A cold dread settled in David's stomach. Marilyn wasn't just on the run. She was playing a twisted game of cat and mouse, delighting in his fear. Around midnight, a low, guttural growl rippled through the quiet house. It was Max, a controlled K9-trained warning. David's heart hammered against his ribs. He grabbed his pistol, the familiar weight of cold comfort in his hand. Max, moving like a ghost, led him to the back door. Through the window, a hooded shadow moved near the shed. Marilyn. She was here, at his house. David quickly texted Ramirez. "She's here, at my house, alone." Shed. David stepped outside, pistol raised, Max a silent protective presence at his side. Marilyn turned, her eyes wide and manic in the porch light, clutching a small, familiar bottle. "Freeze!" David roared. "Hands where I can see them!" Max launched forward, blocking her path, not to bite, but to hold her, teeth bared, a silent, terrifying display of controlled power. "I wasn't trying to hurt him," Marilyn shrieked, voice cracking. "I came back to explain." "You poisoned my son!" David screamed back, pure rage boiling. Max barked sharply, a sound that cut through her frantic babbling, silencing her. Then, red and blue lights flooded the yard. Sirens wailed. Detective Ramirez emerged, gun drawn, followed by 2 uniformed officers. Marilyn dropped the bottle, a look of defeat settling on her face, and slowly raised her hands. She was cuffed and read her rights. David stood, trembling, the pistol heavy in his hand. Max nudged his leg, a quiet reassurance. "You saved him, boy," David whispered, his voice thick with emotion. In the glow of the squad car, David's eyes fell upon the bottle Marilyn had dropped. It was identical to the first, but chillingly it had a handwritten label. Noah. Ramirez confirmed. "In the fridge at her motel we found a second container of oatmeal, same brand, same antifreeze trace, labeled with Noah's name. She was planning to do it again." This revelation, a final horrifying twist, drove home the depth of Marilyn's depravity. "David," Ramirez's voice was low. "She didn't stop because of guilt. She stopped because Max got in the way. Max had saved Noah not once, but twice. The battle was over, but the long road to healing and the profound understanding of true heroism had just begun." With Marilyn Thorne finally in custody, a strange, fragile calm settled over David's house. Noah, though still recovering, slept soundly. Max snored by the fireplace, a picture of peaceful loyalty after his ordeal. David, however, couldn't shake the chilling images from Marilyn's old case files. The judge's notes expressed belief that the child was the problem, and the journal, found in her motel room, became a horrifying window into her twisted mind. "The dog watches, he doesn't blink. He knows I'm not the bad one. They never saw what I did for him. This time I'll do it right. This one's better. This one's clean." Then, the grotesque sketches, cribs, children's hands and a dog's face with eyes violently scratched out. Max knew. He had known all along. David knelt beside Max, placing his forehead against the dog's. "You knew all along, didn't you?" Max looked up, blinked slowly and rested his head on David's knee. David felt a wave of profound guilt and gratitude. He, a trained K9 handler, had doubted his partner, but Max's loyalty had never wavered. He had truly been a silent guardian. Justice, though slow, finally arrived. Detective Ramirez confirmed Marilyn's full confession. Guilty plea on all counts, no trial. 25 years in prison, Ramirez stated. No parole for at least 15. She's not going anywhere. David felt a deep sense of relief. She won't ever hurt another child, he said softly. Ramirez added, That's thanks to your partner. You should be proud. The local paper hailed Max as a hero. His face, once labeled dangerous, now graced headlines and social media, a symbol of unwavering loyalty. Offers poured in. Free vet care, donations, even an invite to the mayor's office. At a joyous community event, David watched as the mayor honored Max. Noah, now full of giggles, hugged his furry guardian, who licked his ear. An old veteran approached David. Dogs like him, they save more lives than we give them credit for. Don't ever let anyone tell you he's just a pet. David brought Marilyn's journal to the backyard fire pit. He looked at Max, who sat patiently beside him. You knew all along, didn't you? Max looked up, blinked slowly, and rested his chin on David's boot. Not a guard dog, not a weapon, a guardian. The journal, with its twisted words, curled and turned to ash. Some stories didn't deserve to be preserved. It was a symbolic act, releasing the darkness from their lives. In the quiet months that followed, life settled into a new normal. David installed a second nanny cam, not out of fear, but a new understanding. Trust, once shattered, had to be rebuilt on a foundation of vigilance, not naivete. He started teaching K9 response part-time at the local academy, bringing Max along. He shared their story, not dwelling on the horror, but emphasizing the profound lessons learned. He'd saved my family, David would tell his recruits, and that was enough. Max, the silent guardian, remained Noah's ever-present shadow. He was more than just a protector, he was a quiet therapist for both father and son. On nights when Noah still had nightmares, Max would instinctively lie by his bed, his steady breathing a comforting rhythm. When David felt the lingering shadows of fear, Max would nudge his hand, a silent reminder that they were safe, together. Noah, fully recovered, now fed Max his breakfast every morning, singing off-key alphabet songs, and David, watching his son giggle and his dog wag his tail, knew they had faced the darkness and found their way back to the light. A new plaque adorned their fireplace. Max, loyal, always protector, partner, friend. And on quiet mornings, when the sunlight hit just right, David would find Max lying at Noah's bedroom door, like a sentinel made of muscle and instinct and love. Nothing would get past him. Not this time, not ever again. To everyone who walked with David, Max, and little Noah through their harrowing journey, thank you. Sometimes the strongest warnings don't come from sirens, they come from silence. From a dog refusing to blink, from a growl that saves a life. Now we want to hear from you. Have you ever witnessed an animal sense something humans missed? Or maybe you've seen a pet become a hero in ways no one expected. Share your stories in the comments below, and if you believe stories like this deserve to be shared, don't forget to subscribe to Courage and Fur, because sometimes the ones who can't speak still have the loudest voices.